I'm talking about how to make your emotions your turbocharged power booster. And I'm really excited for this. I love talking about emotions, and it's one of the main things that I work with on people. And look, I think there's a couple of, I could talk about this for days. And in fact, I do when I'm training, but I think there's a couple of key things that I really want to focus on for you today. And I think there's some really key learnings and key things that when you understand this about emotions, you'll become very motivated to not only master your emotions, but to also use them as a very, very powerful tool. And so, what I'm going to share with you is coming from a couple of different angles. And my interest in emotions and mastering your emotional state really has come from my own life experiences and a lot of work that I have done for myself on this topic. And because if I take you back a bit, right before I got into personal development, my emotions, I'll admit, were pretty erratic. Okay, so, but in a controlled way, I'll say that much. I could control them when I wanted to. And that really is because I learned at a very young age that it wasn't okay for me to express my emotions. Right? There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened when I was young. My parents separated when I was very young. I lived with my dad. Both my parents have now been remarried about like 3, 4 times each. There was always a lot of emotional stuff, and there was always a lot of mental health issues that were going on. My dad had depression right throughout his life, and you know the things that I learned as a young child were that my emotions weren't valid, right? Because my main caregivers couldn't deal with their own emotions, and they saw their own emotions as much more important than mine. They didn't have the capacity to acknowledge, let alone help me process my own emotions because they were too caught up in their own emotions. And so I very much learned that my needs weren't as important, and that it wasn't okay for me to express my emotions. And you know, there was very much, like, I remember many times when I was upset, it was like I was pretty much in trouble for being upset. And so, you know, this is something that happens to a lot of people, right? Happens to a lot of people. And this kind of repressed emotion is where we see a lot of passive aggressive behavior come from. So often people will tell me that, you know, they're not angry people, but the fact is, if you're human, you will have experienced anger. And the people that most deny ever being angry are usually the ones that are most passive aggressive. And I've been there as well. And it's also where we see a lot of people pleasing, self sacrificing, stress, martyrdom, avoidant behavior, toxic and codependent relationships. Like, all of this stuff very much gets linked to our emotions and the ability of whether we have to be in control of our emotions, to have processed our emotions, and what it is that we've got suppressed. Okay, because often people like to suppress their emotions and they pack them down, and they're like, as long as they're down there, nobody needs to know, I don't need to deal with them. But that doesn't actually work, right? So for me, for example, before I got into personal development, I was generally pretty good at keeping a calm exterior when I was in public, right? But there was a lot of stuff going on underneath. And in private, my emotions would bubble up and flow free. Okay, they would flow free. So that meant, I can't even say that properly now, flow free. I think that's what I'm trying to say. They would flow freely. You know what I mean? So how this would show up was, like, I know, like, as a mom with a young child, I could get my cranky pants on pretty quick, right? Like, I wasn't equipped to deal with little kids' emotions. I would get cranky. In my relationships, I would get into these codependent relationships, and I would like put up with a lot of stuff, and then like kaboom, like I would explode, right? I was very avoidant. Like if there was conflict, especially like in the workplace, if there was conflict, I would avoid it. I would like chuck sick days and everything to avoid having to be in any kind of situation where I was triggered emotionally, because I didn't trust myself to deal with my emotions, and I would most likely start crying, and I didn't want to cry in public. I didn't want to cry at work, because it was something I didn't feel like I was in control of, and it made me feel very vulnerable and very weak. So there was a lot of this behavior that went on. And so when you've got a lot of suppressed emotions, you view the world through these emotions, right? They become filters to your reality, to how you're perceiving the reality. And so what happens is that your mind is constantly searching for meaning in like the littlest things to match that with the emotions that you haven't resolved, right? And then it's like, oh, someone said that, whatever they said, and I'm sure that they mean, this thing, and that makes me mad, or like that makes me sad, or that makes me fearful, whatever that is. And it's not really the thing in the moment that's making you feel those feelings. It's that you've got these emotions in your body, and your mind's constantly looking for meaning to express these emotions, right? And so that's how it comes up, and we can feel very out of control and triggered a lot of the time, right? So what we need when it comes to emotions, what we need to know is how to process and release old and negative emotions, as well as learn how to choose the state that we want to be in that will have the most positive effect on our outcomes. So that's what I'm going to dive into in today's episode. So I remember I was running an NLP masterclass, and one of the participants said to me, like, how do you not get angry? Right? She was almost angry as she was saying it to me, like, how do you not get angry? And this was someone who knew she had an explosive temper, and that often her husband and her children bore the brunt of it. And she could get angry, and it was like she would do it publicly as well. It wasn't that much of a secret that this person could get angry pretty quickly. And my answer to this was twofold. Okay, so firstly, right, I choose for the most part not to be in an angry state, because I don't enjoy it and nothing good comes from it for me. Okay, like it doesn't help, it doesn't improve your reality, it doesn't improve your health, and it doesn't improve the situation, right? So like I don't like being in the state of angry. Can I get angry? Yes, I can get angry. And if someone's trying to cross my boundaries, they'll know I'm angry, right? I don't suppress I don't suppress my emotions like I used to, but I can set very clear boundaries. And so it's going to be a fair process before someone's crossing my boundaries, because my boundaries are quite clear, and I can express my boundaries in a very clear, calm way. But if someone wants to cross those, yes, I can get angry, and they'll know I'm angry, right? But I can also resolve that pretty quickly. But the reason, I can choose that, the reason I can choose that is the second part of this, and that is that I have released the old negative emotions, including anger and sadness and fear and hurt and guilt and rage and, frustration, and all these old negative emotions that I used to have unprocessed. I've released them, right? Using powerful techniques such as NLP and timeline therapy. And so you can release old negative emotions, right? This is really important for you to know. You can release them because the purpose of emotions, like what we have to realize is there are no bad emotions, right? There's no bad emotions to start with. It's very perfectly natural to feel negative emotions. It's how we know something's not right. Like, for example, someone's crossed our boundaries, or we've had loss, or something's happened, right? We can experience emotions. That's quite normal. It's a signal. what emotions aren't for is repressing and suppressing and holding on to. Okay, that's where it becomes a problem. So we have to really look at the way that we can release negative emotions. Is there's a couple of foundations that we look at, and one is that all of your memories in the past should be either with positive emotions or neutral if you have processed and learned what you needed to learn from them. Okay, now this comes from the perspective that life is happening for you, not to you. And where people get caught up is that they think, well, so-and-so did that to me, and I will never forgive them for that. Well, guess what? Whoever that was has got no idea. They're getting on with their life just fine, and you're the person who's still suffering about something that's not even happening anymore. Okay, so forgiveness and letting go of the emotions is for your benefit, right? Like holding on to emotions, negative emotions, only hurts you. It doesn't do anything to anybody else, right? So you want to get rid of them. And also it comes from the premise that life is happening for you, not to you. So that means whatever has happened, right? Like you have, through whatever series of decisions and actions and behaviors that got you into that situation with that person, there were things that you could learn from that will put you in a place where you feel more confident and certain within yourself. You're more able to express your boundaries. You know more things about other people and their behaviors and what they do and what they say and what you're worthy of and what you're deserving of and all those kinds of things you can learn from those situations so that you ensure that they don't happen again. Okay, holding on to negative emotions won't ensure that you don't get the same situation again. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Right? When people hold on to the negative emotions and hold on to being a victim, they don't learn what they're meant to learn from that situation, and it'll keep recycling. Like you'll keep going through that same situation. So it's really important that we learn how to release these negative emotions, how to process them and release them, and learn what we were meant to learn and move on with our lives. Okay, so sometimes people feel justified about having negative emotions. Things like anger and fear, people sometimes think that it's keeping them safe, but it's just really not. Holding on to negative emotions also has a detrimental effect on our body, on our physical health. It lowers our vibration, right? It makes us more dense. It makes it creates dis-ease in the body. Like they know, you go and read any books by Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra, any of those. There's direct linkages between negative emotions that people hold in their body and disease, right? Like things around the heart and, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go into this episode. However, they're not there, right? They're not there. They're not meant to be held on to. Sadness is another sort of emotion or guilt that people hold on to. So sometimes people think that when someone passes, they say, well, I'll never get over this. Like I'll feel sad about this for the rest of my life. Well, that's also not serving a purpose. Okay, you can't love anybody anymore by holding on to sadness, right? You can't. And the question always is, if you connect in with that person who's passed that's within you and you ask them, do they want you to feel sad about their passing? They'll always say no, right? We can very much honor people's memory with love and gratitude and a whole other positive emotions that is much more loving than sadness and grief and things like that. Okay, so our emotions, yes, they serve a purpose, but the purpose is for us to experience them, to acknowledge them, to process them, and to let them go, and to return to a much higher frequency as soon as we possibly can. Okay, and so this is really important, but the thing is, so many people don't learn how to do this because, for example, maybe their main caregivers didn't know how to do this, right? Maybe their main caregivers had their own emotional issues and were dealing with their own emotional stuff, and they didn't know how to process their own emotions. So, of course, they couldn't teach you how to process your emotions. And if we don't have the ability to learn that as young children, well, then we start repressing these emotions and repressing and repressing and repressing. And we'll keep doing that until at some point in time, we get to adults and we realize that, you know what, my life's not working how I want it to. And I'm either unwell or having bad relationships or just feeling really unhappy within myself or whatever that might be. Okay, so the unconscious mind is consistently looking for opportunities for you to process those emotions that you repress. Okay, now the problem with that is that if you're not aware of that process, how that looks is you're talking to someone or you see something or you know something else happens and it triggers an emotion in you. Okay, and so it appears that the cause of that emotion you're feeling is that person or that situation, but it's not. It's the emotion that you've already got there looking for a way to be expressed and processed. Okay, but if we're not aware of this, people will generally point the finger of blame. And it's like, you making me angry, they make me angry, this makes me sad, you know, whatever else, right? Without being aware that it's just their emotion there that's trying to process. Okay, so unresolved negative emotions are one of the biggest problems for us when it comes to creating the kind of life, relationships, and success that you want, right? And this is why when it comes to working with a client, one of the first things that we do is we release old negative emotions. Okay, so after we unpack what is their problem, you know, what problems are they having, what do they want to create, what are the obstacles for them in getting that, we go straight in and release negative emotions, because releasing their negative emotions from the past will clear up 90% of their problem. Like that, bang. Like negative emotions have a huge impact on your life. Okay, so that was the first thing, right? When this person was saying to me, how do I not get angry? Well, I've released negative emotions from the past, right? I've released anger from the past. And the second part is that it's a conscious choice that I make, right? It's a conscious choice about what state that I'm going to be in. And when you've got rid of your negative emotions from the past, it's much easier to make a choice about what state or emotion you're going to feel in the moment, because you're creating and a feeling in the moment based on the present moment, not based on stuff that happened to you 20 years ago, right? Or when you were a child, right? We get to know that no one can make you feel a certain way. Yes, people can do things or say things that are not okay with you, but how you choose to deal with that is your choice, right? Whether you choose to get upset about it or not is your choice. Whether you've set boundaries and clearly expressed your boundaries is a choice, okay? So it's really important to know that managing your state is super, super important, because your state, your emotional state, is directly linked to your thoughts. Okay, so you can't be in a negative state and think positive, helpful thoughts. It just doesn't work that way. And so it also, your emotional state also affects your behaviors, which then affects your outcomes and your results. Okay, so your state affects everything: how you think, how you act, how you behave, how you achieve things or not achieve things, your relationships, right? It all comes down to your emotional state. Dr. David Hawkins demonstrated this very clearly in his book called Power versus Force. I highly recommend it. If you haven't already read it or listened to it, go check it out, Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. And he spoke about the map of consciousness, or the emotional scale, I like to refer it to. And what the map of consciousness shows is that there's a scale, there's an emotional scale, right? And they've measured these emotions in frequency, in hertz, and how, you know, what are those frequencies? And so states such as fear, anger, guilt, shame, jealousy, you know, all of these kind of low level negative emotions, they're lower in frequency. When you're in those states, you're more contracted, right? So you contract in on yourself, It's much more dense, heavy energy. And for people who are in these lower frequencies, when you're around them, you'll know, right? Because you'll feel very drained, right? You'll feel very drained around people that are in those low frequencies. They will have so many things to complain about. They will tell you all of their problems, how everything's so bad. They're probably sitting there watching the news 24/7 because the news and all the bad news bad news on the news is a very good match for these low level frequencies, right? It's yucky, it's sticky, and when you're in that, people will feel drained around you, or other people in that, you'll feel drained around them if you spend too much time with them. And people in those lower energies will attract lower level situations, right, to themselves. So think about how those things feel, right? If you're feeling anger or sadness or fear or guilt or shame, all that kind of stuff, then you're going to attract situations that match those emotions, right? So more situations to make you feel angry, fearful, sad, shame, all those kinds of things. Now, the good news is that we can move up this scale, right? We can move up this emotional scale. And there's a tipping point, which is at courage. And I think that's like 200 or 210 hertz they've measured courage at. And from courage and above, your frequency and your vibration becomes higher and lighter, and you become more expansive, right? And so when you're with people whose state is predominantly in these higher frequencies, then you feel more energized around people like that, right? You feel more energized around people like that. You want to be around people like that. When you're in those frequencies, you become magnetic. People just know that they feel better when they're around you, and you'll attract higher level situations to yourself, right? So you'll attract the things that you want to experience, because the things that you want to experience, right, whether it's going on a holiday, whether it's buying a new car, whether it's buying a new house, whether it's getting into a relationship, whether it's going out for dinner, whatever it is that you want, the only reason you want it is because you believe that when you do those things or have those things, that you will feel a higher emotional state, right? This is really important to know. And when it comes to how resourceful you are, right, how resourceful, how able you are to solve problems, to create what you want, to, build your business, whatever that might be, face challenges, then what you need to know is that you need to be in a resourceful state for that, okay? This comes from the premise that there are no unresourceful people. There's only unresourceful states. Okay? There are no unresourceful people. There are only unresourceful states. And so again, this comes back to your emotional state, right? The more you're in control of your emotional state and you keep yourself in a more higher frequency, resourceful state, so courage and above, courage, happiness, optimism, excitement, joy, love, right? All of those kinds of things, then you're going to achieve a lot more, right? Things go your way. You have better conversations. You attract more into your life that matches that frequency. Okay, so this is why that successful people choose what state they want to be in, and they don't let outside factors influence them. Right? They don't let outside factors influence them. They don't go, oh, I'm having a good day, but oh, now someone's cut me off, so now I'm in a bad mood. No, they don't. Why would you? When you understand how powerful your state is and that you're in charge of it and that directly influences your quality of life, why would you ever let something else affect your state? Why would you want to, right? You wouldn't. Okay, so this is where you can choose to feel good regardless. You can choose to feel good regardless, right? In this world, right? Even now in your community, in your area, if you're in Adelaide like I am, there'll be people who live within a certain radius of you, okay, who have the same weather, the same access to resources, the same, environment in a lot of ways. And some of them will be saying they're having the worst time of their life, and some of them will be saying they're having the best time of their life, right? And yes, there can be other variables around environment, but I can guarantee you it will come back to their consistent state, their consistent emotional state, and what they focus on, right? So their thoughts and their state are directly linked, and that then determines your outcome and your behaviors and your results. Okay, so this is the thing, we have to decide to feel good, right? We have to decide to feel good, because when we feel good, we can think good thoughts, we can focus on what we want. And the more you focus on what you want, the more good you'll feel. The more good you'll feel, the more you focus on what you want, the more you'll be motivated to take action towards making those things happen that you want to happen, right? This is also why enforcing your boundaries is so important, right? So important, because enforcing your boundaries is actually one of the requisites for change, right? When we work with people, there's 3 requisites for change. The first one is getting rid of things like negative emotions and limiting beliefs. The second one is focusing on what you want and then taking action, which includes enforcing your boundaries. That's how you create change in your life. Okay, so you have to decide that you're not the dumping ground for other people's emotions, right? This is a big boundary I've had to put in place. No, yes, I will help people who want to help themselves. But if you want to just come and whinge and tell me how bad life is and dump all your emotional crap on me so that I can wear it, no thanks. I'm not here for that, right? I'm not here for that. It's not saying that I don't help people with emotions, because all my clients, when I work with them, have negative emotions, but they're there under the premise that we're there to process them and release them, not for them to come and tell me how terrible their life is, right? Okay, that's your perspective. Let's shift it and move on. Okay, so boundaries. Don't be the dumping ground for other people's emotions. Have boundaries around your emotional environment. Okay, have boundaries around how people speak to you, or how they behave, or how they interact with your belongings or your time. You have boundaries around that, okay? Because if you don't, then you'll feel resentment, and resentment is a low vibrational frequency, right? It's a low vibrational state. Okay, so your needs are valid, your emotions are important. You have the right to create an environment for yourself which is easy for you to feel good, right? To be in a resourceful state, to be in a higher frequency. Put boundaries around that and protect that with your life, right? Because it literally is that important. Okay, so it's okay to express yourself. If you've got emotions that come up, acknowledge them, express them, and then seek, equilibrium to get back to your highest and most resourceful state, so that you can focus on what you want and keep taking action towards creating what you want. Okay, so here is the key takeaways from today. Here are the key takeaways. Number 1, release negative emotions from the past. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you don't know how to do that, reach out to me. Very much timeline therapy, NLP are some of the most powerful tools I've ever come across that will help you get rid of negative emotions fast. People are always blown away. You know it straight away. You know you've released a negative emotion. 1 minute you feel like you've got this negative emotion, anger, sadness, fear, whatever it is. 10 minutes later, it's gone, right? It's just using your mind in the way that it's meant to be used. Your mind has the power to do this. Timeline therapy and NLP gives you steps in the process to do that, to make it work. Okay, you learn what you need to learn and you let go of the negative emotion. Super important. Number 2, know that your state is your choice. You can choose your state, right? Yes, other people can affect you, but for how long or how often you let them do that is your choice. Hey, resolve whatever's going on that you don't like and enforce your boundaries and move on and choose the state that you want to be in. Choose predominantly to be in a high frequency, love, excitement, joy, courage, all of these kinds of things, peace, calm. The more that you make that your priority to be in that state, then the more you're going to be in charge of your life, your happiness, your relationships, your behavior, your results, your business growth. Okay, God knows you get challenged when you're in business. How do you deal with that emotional state? These are the things that I'm telling you. Okay, so my question for you this week is, and I want you to think about this and send me a message about it, right? What is it that you want to have or achieve? Okay, what is it that you want to have or achieve? So what is it that you think? So right now, I'm planning on going on to holiday in Thailand. Well, I am going on holiday in Thailand. I've booked it in a few weeks. I'm going to be going to Thailand, right? So to think about, okay, how do you, what will that make you feel? Well, it will make me feel relaxed. It will make me feel curious because I'm going to go and explore another country I've never been to. I'm going to discover new things. I'm going to feel like I'm having fun. It'll be exciting. I'm going with my partner. It'll be a very loving experience, right? So these are the things that I feel like I'm going to get from doing that. Okay, so think that for yourself. What is it that you want to have? It could be, you want to buy a new car. It could be you want to go on holiday. It might be you're looking for a partner. It might be you want to start your business. Whatever it is, think about what will having that or achieving that make you feel. Okay, what will you feel from that? And then here is the kicker. Decide to make feeling that, whatever you said it is, that having that thing will make you feel, decide to make feeling that your priority, right? Decide to make feeling that your priority, because the more you feel those feelings, the quicker you're going to attract to yourself the experiences and people that match that. It's a given, it's science, it will happen, right? So decide to make those feelings your priority and watch your life transform. Sending you all the good feels, my loves.